Welcome to the Grimfrost Podcast. Today's guest is Nils Edström, musician, songwriter, poet, and the man behind Hindarfjäll, currently out with a new album, Seden. So, Nils, welcome to our longhouse.
Thank you very much.
I heard you had a very, very interesting journey here.
Yes.
The Swedish rail system, they're like Gandalf. They're never early or late.
Exactly.
They arrive just exactly when they mean to, don't they? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
It was a ride. Indeed.
I think it's like, what is it now? Like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you started at 9 o'clock in the morning or something?
8 o'clock, I think.
8 o'clock,
yeah. It's,
it would have been faster to walk here from Gothenburg. So, Gothenburg. You're from Gothenburg.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how was it growing up in Gothenburg?
Oh, that's a good question. It was nice. It's the nature is beautiful. We live very close to the sea. Very dramatic landscape, kind of. The weather is pretty much horrible all the time, according to me.
It's one of the windiest cities in Sweden, I would say.
Yes. So no, but Gothenburg is amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. So where in Gothenburg are you from? Like, are you close to the archipelago, or?
I'm from Örgryte.
Oh, okay.
So it's the bit east.
Yeah.
It's like 15 minutes from the
right across from Liseberg.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So I already mentioned Liseberg, but what other things are Gothenburg famous for? For the people who don't know. For metal. Yeah, that's true. Because Gothenburg has a really massive music scene, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So did that inspire you at all growing up?
Not really, because we're mostly famous for the Gothenburg metal sound, kind of, In Flames, Dark Tranquility, and At the Gates. I never listened to that much of that kind of genre, or that subgenre. So for me, it was mostly about Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, Skid Row, the 80s. No, I wouldn't say so, but maybe a little, like subconsciously. I don't know.
Yeah, but a source of pride, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course. So how did your musical journey begin in the first place?
I think from the start, I was more into drawing, painting and stuff up until, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of age, when I started to, listen to the I listened to Melodifestivalen, Eurovision Song Contest. Did all the miming and stuff, at 6 years of age, and after that, I think it all started when I came into the hard rock, heavy metal kind of stuff. I think it started with Guitar Hero, actually, PlayStation. And there it just took off, basically.
So what type of music would you listen to, in the beginning, except for the Eurovision Song Contest?
Yeah, actually,
or growing up?
Yeah, the thing is, I think it started with E-Type.
Oh, really?
When I was maybe 4 or 5, and I was miming to that, and then after that, went into Guns N' Roses, as I said, and eventually around I think it was 8th grade, I met a dear friend of mine, one of my closest friends, and he was into black metal, and we wanted to start a band. And he didn't want to play that, 80s hard rock music. So I just had to adapt, basically.
All right. Did you know what black metal was back at that point? Had you ever heard it?
Not really. I had heard of it, but I hadn't heard any concrete like a band or. So, and he started showing me. I think the first band was Dissection, actually.
Okay, yeah. Gothenburg band as well, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, groundbreaking, yeah.
So and then in the beginning I couldn't stand it. There were some songs I was wow, this works. It's melodic. And then when they started growling, screaming, I was like, no, turn it off. So, but eventually it grew on you, and I think I started to like getting used to it basically, and from that point I became this black metal guy instead.
All right. An acquired taste. Then.
Yeah.
So did you go to shows and all that stuff as well?
Around that time, no, not so much. We were like 13, 14 years old.
Okay.
So, but we started our first band, black metal band. But I think it got a mix between this hard rock, 80s hard rock with black metal. So it was pretty interesting.
Very unique combination.
Yeah. So and with time, we started to develop. I started to explore the lyrics and I started to get interested in that kind of stuff. And I had a background in what should we say, like in folklore, kind of this nature worship, basically, that comes from my grandmother. So I was already into that part of the whole thing, the forest, the nature thing, and then I started to read more about it, and eventually it got into the Norse culture.
So is that when you kind of started going more toward like folk music, or
absolutely
started Hindarfjäll and all that stuff?
Yes.
So what were your influences doing that?
I think it started with a friend of mine, actually a band member at that time. I remember one time he was listening to a band called Månegarm.
Oh, okay.
When we had a class, and so he showed me Månegarm. I was like, oh, this is something else. And then I found their acoustic stuff, and so we started to develop from there, basically. And then and that specific time we started to we were always in the forest, and our classmates started to asking like, what are you really doing in the forest? It's a bit creepy, because for them it was a bit strange, but we like, now I lost the thread, but speaking about
starting Hindarfjäll.
No, so and Månegarm. So we really wanted to find, or I really wanted to find music that was fitting for the atmosphere when I was walking in the forest. So that's when it all started. So I remember finding, it was Månegarm, and then there was one particular song called Stenristarna, by Anders Hagberg. And from there, after that, I pretty quickly found Vardruna. And so I think it started from there, basically.
So the ball kept rolling.
Yeah.
So when you went about starting Hindarfjäll, like obviously you just don't go to the music store and buy a tagelharpa. How did you get the instruments? Like, did you know what to look for?
Back then, I felt like, no, I'm not gonna use any old instruments. It seems too difficult.
Okay.
So no, because I'm originally a guitar player.
Yeah.
So I didn't sing at all. But eventually, I found out that okay, I need to start singing. So I used mostly guitars. And then I had some classmates. They played flute, and
because you went to music school, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So eventually, I think it was 2000, like 1 year after, I was thinking, okay, maybe it's worth checking out the tagelharpa. So I bought one, and then the first thing that happened was that I cling.
You broke a string.
Broke a string, yeah.
Oh, wow.
and I was like, no. So it took a while to get that going again, but eventually I started using more like I think I bought first Kravik lyre in 2021. It was quite long after. So I started realizing, okay, maybe it's better to try to combine all this, like, because I really want to have that element, with the guitar, because it's so close to me, and that kind of monogarm folk-ish kind of thing. So I really wanted to stay in that in that area at the same time.
I mean, breaking a string is easily done. I mean, even our bass player Ted at one show early in the career broke the E string on his bass, and that's a hard thing to do. I don't know how to do it. Probably was drunk. I have no idea. Anyways, so what is your favorite instrument, like, nowadays? You said you started out as a guitar player, and then obviously you picked up the tagelharpa. But what's your favorite instrument, and has it changed over the years?
At this moment, it's changing quite dramatically. But at this moment, I would say the Kravik lyre. I just bought. No, it was like maybe 1.5, 2 years ago. But I bought a Kravik lyre from Sverre Heimdall, and that changed everything. It was.
So why is that your favorite then?
I think it's because I'm a guitar player, and the lyre comes closest to that thing. Basically.
Oh, okay.
I tried the tagelharpa. It's nice, but it's not the same. So
it's a very different instrument, I would say, because
yeah.
So, what challenges is there then playing like the older instruments, like the Kravik lyre or the tagelharpa? Like, obviously, it's very different from playing like modern instruments.
Yeah, it's when it comes to the tagelharpa, it's like almost playing the violin, because you don't have the what is it called, like the guitar, like
you don't have
frets.
the frets. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's really difficult. And also, like, speaking about the tuning, you tune it, and then like 5 minutes later, it's
it's out of tune
again. Yeah,
out
of tune. So it's found a lot of things to deal with with these new old instruments. But I don't know. And it's more like, because the guitar you can play in any key, right? But with the tagelharpa and the Kravik lyre, it's very like it's one key basically.
Yeah. So going back to your interest in the forest and in Viking culture, like, how did that interest start? Like, you already mentioned your grandma that was very much into this, but folklore stuff. But Swedish folklore compared to the Viking Age traditions, that's actually quite a step in many ways.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, when I started reading about it more, but I was just touching the surface really back in 2014, 15. I started realizing, but this is like because we could be walking in the forest, me and my grandmother, and she would say, "Oh, there, you see the troll," and but she was serious, and I was like, "Yeah, I see the tree." But then eventually I started realizing that, okay, this is not. Of course, it's a giant leap, but there are a lot of fragments in the folklore that comes from the Norse sources basically. So that's where it all started, and then from there I just started to dig more. But it wasn't until I would say 2020, around there, when I really started to dig deeper. Because I was speaking about the first album, it's there you could really hear it's more like the folklore kind of nature worship. It's not so profound. It's more like about the atmosphere and more about the music and more like the folklore, a bit. I don't want to say new age, but it's a bit like floating, basically. So because I wrote the majority of those songs, I wrote back in 2015, 16.
So what parts of the Norse culture or the Norse mythology, is the most interesting to you?
You mean what kind of mythology or?
Yeah, like what part of the whole thing about Norse mythology is most interesting to you? I mean, is it like the gods and the stories and or the mighty battles or the sagas or?
Oh, okay. I think it's the way of thinking, maybe, or the more we could say esoterical or spiritual aspects of it all. The way, the way of thinking, the way of acting, the way of those kind of things caught my attention. These wide ways of thinking, basically. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. But what does Norse spirituality mean to you then? I mean, what is it to you? Like how does it speak to you in that sense?
I think that has developed as well. In the beginning, it was more like, as I mentioned, more about the surface, the little surface here, and about the nature, and then like, the trees are alive. You understand? The more, nature worship kind of thing. But eventually, I found out that it's much more. It's like everything from how the mythology is, how they are reflecting certain things, and how, of course, everything is run in cycles, and all that kind of things. It's really interesting, and you really learn more and more the deeper you go.
So how do you learn and access the past? And like, do you read books or do you still talk to your grandmother about these things? Or
unfortunately, she passed away.
I'm
10 years ago. Yeah,
I'm sad to hear that.
I read a lot of books, archaeological books, and history of religion, and that kind of stuff. At the same time, I think it's really interesting to read Havamål and all this kind of stuff. I think there are a lot of more to it. Like the Icelandic sagas. That there, I think you can get a feel of speaking about how people acted, and like the whole way of thinking, and speaking about honor, which is pretty interesting, because today we think about honor as something like, I'm gonna believe in this until I die kind of thing, which was totally different back then. Honor was something, it was about respect towards yourself and towards other people, nature, animals, plants. All kinds of, what should we say, like approaches, I guess it's a good word.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I mean, personally, I always thought that you can't really understand the mythology, like Havamål or like the Edda in general, unless you also read the Icelandic sagas and you read up on the history, because you kind of need to know the people that actually had these stories.
Yeah.
To understand the impact that they can have on your life. Would you say that's the same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you need to. It's about connecting things, and not just reading one source and then feel like, now I'm finished. So, yeah, it's a puzzle. It's a great puzzle. It's about connecting dots, basically.
Yeah. So, is this a big part of the process when you write your songs, or how do you write all the songs? Like what is your process? That's what I'm getting at.
That's a good question. I think it depends. The second album, Lärans grenar, I think I started the whole, like, a bit of a new chapter, basically. Speaking about, for example, Lärad instead of Yggdrasil, and touching things that I haven't really heard before in this genre. I'm always trying to put it in a modern perspective kind of way, and also intertwining personal things, and trying to make relevant texts that combines both.
So do you work metaphorically with the lyrics, or?
Yes, I think I would say that
Yeah?
sometimes. Yeah.
All right. So what inspires a song then?
It could be rock carvings. It could be graves. It could be relationships. It could be anything, really. But the latest album is more. It's. I try to put focus on seden, or as they would say it, cider. Also known today as fornsider, like the old way. But I think by saying fornsider, the old way, then you are like contributing to saying that the old way, it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
But so that's why I don't say fornsider or fornsed. So that I put a lot of focus into. It's pretty. That subject is pretty difficult to put in an album because it's so big. Because seden or cider was the whole way of their lives, and so it's basically everything about life, about death, even.
Yeah. So when we talked to Einar Selvik in the beginning of the series, he said that, like, obviously we can't recreate the songs that our forefathers played back in the way, but we're trying to write new songs and create new expressions.
Yeah.
The way with the instruments and the words and the knowledge that we have that they left behind. Would you say it's sort of the same thing that you're trying to do?
But I don't. But I'm not trying to, like, when it comes. If you speak about musically, I think I left that idea already when I started. When speaking about like the guitars and I want a more modern approach to it. So musically, I wouldn't say, like, if we speak about Viking music and stuff, because that's a pretty interesting subject. Like speaking about what should we call this genre, because no one can answer on that. So, but yeah, of course, I agree with him on that. Even though I'm not trying to put so much effort into trying to recreate like something musically.
So when you write the songs, then, like, and what comes first then is it music or lyrics?
Oof, that depends. But for me, it's I think on this new album I tried to make the lyrics first and then put music to it, and that was pretty difficult.
I always felt that was really difficult.
Yeah. So now I've gone back to the old, like doing the music first and then
Yeah, because like when I write lyrics, I always it always helps if I have the music, because then I can get into the feel of the lyrics.
Yeah, exactly.
And really get a good vibe for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just feels forced somehow.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can try to like create the melody with the lyrics and stuff. So yeah, I think that's much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we talked a little bit about this now, and I kind of pushed you in that direction. But like, can you explain a little bit more what it is that you want to communicate with your music?
Yeah, it's speaking about this album, Seden. Something that was very like that I found extremely interesting about the more I read and stuff about seden or cider is that the what we call blot, or like the rituals. What do they mean? Why? And so on. So what I've found is that this Seden is basically about the ritualistic interplay between things. For example, you make blot or sacrifice to make sure that everything goes in order, to maintain everything, to maintain the order and balance, and so that's I would say that's the main focus on that album. Even though it's such a big subject, so that the name. So I don't think that I put everything in there. I would have like maybe like 30 songs instead. But yeah.
So you released 3 albums, as you said. I mean, let's do this. Can you tell us about the first one, Från tidernas begynnelse? It's looks like this.
There you have it.
Yeah, there you have it. So can you tell us a little bit about this album?
Yeah. So as I mentioned a bit before, it's the first album, and I didn't really. It was back then when I had just found out like about black metal. I was getting back, or like speaking about the nature thing, the forest. So I just went back, to what my grandmother always told me, like with the trees and stuff. So I felt like I found that thing again.
So what did you like? What did you want to like put out there into the world? Like was that like the whole notion of like the connection to nature, or?
Yeah, it was basically that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put words into your mind.
No, but it was a very, very good put. It's because I felt like I wanted to do something that was more profound or deep for me. Because eventually I felt that the black metal music became too aggressive. It was more like an untamed kind of chaos. But the thing is, I when I listen to the old songs today, I can still hear those tendencies of like this dark, which, So when I look back on that album, I feel like, but the thing is, I think that's a good thing, and that means that you are growing as a person.
But there's some positive vibes here, like Sunna strålar.
That's true. That's true. Absolutely.
The rays of the sun. And stuff like that. Yeah. So, and then the second album came out a few years ago, Lärans grenar, and you talked a little bit about it already. But this is what that looks like. If you haven't seen it before, it's a great album, mostly because I'm on it. I'm just kidding. It's awesome. But yeah, it's great. But like, what's the difference between that album and the one the Från tidernas begynnelse?
That's a good question. I think it's for me personally, it's the next step into the Norse culture, like the whole Norse thing, and so the more I started to read, I think the whole concept with Lärans grenar, it's I wanted to explore the whole thing with Lärod instead of Yggdrasil, which I know is a bit problematic out there because people know it's Yggdrasil, it has to be, so that's that, and it was also one thing that maybe around 2020, 2019, about the asar and vaner that I found extremely interesting. The whole balance between asar vaner, the sky, the earth, so it's basically exploring that,
And then we have Seder, which came out earlier this year.
Yes.
This is that one. And you kind of already explained the topic of that album. Is it a themed album, by the way?
I would say so. Yes.
Yeah.
But as I said before, it's the name Seden, it's like it needs more songs. It needs more because it's because speaking about like what the Norse culture is, Seder.
Yeah.
That's what they called it basically. It was a bit too big. That's
kind of. I mean, there are, what is it, like 11 songs on this one? No, 13 genomes.
Yeah.
So
quite a lot.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to tell us a little bit about each song if you want, but let's do this. Which songs do you think are the most important ones on the album? Can you tell us a little bit about them?
The most important one. Well, that's difficult to answer.
But you can tell us about all of them. We have time.
No, but I think I could say that my favorite song of them all would be, or maybe that's also a bit difficult to answer because it always changes.
I know.
But right now I think I would say Mjölner because it speaking about the history of Hindarfjäll, like when I started out, I feel like I kind of captured the old Hindarfjäll and the new, and also we've had some additions in the band. So now we have nyckelharpa that's played by Tobias Andersson.
Key harp in English.
Key harp, yes. And and Joel Andreasson is on flute, and he's been in the band for a very long time. And but I think Mjölner really captured the essence of Swedish folk music at the same time as digging a bit into the Nordic folk genre.
Yeah,
kind of.
So did you have a love for Swedish folk music from when you were young, by the way?
No, actually not. But the thing is, it's always been there. But I can't, like, if someone asks me, name an album from Swedish folk, no, sorry, I can't. but I'm thinking about like the old, for example, Ronja Rövardotter, the children's program or movie. It's like, and when we celebrate Midsummer, for example, we know those songs, and so it's always been there. But it's a bit problematic when we talk about Swedish folk music. Most of the people think about these happy, like fast songs, like dancing around the Midsummer pole, right? But I've always had interest for these more darker things, like. I think that Hermanneli with Garman is a good example of that. That's a bit more dark and melancholic, basically. But it's not until pretty recently I started to listening to more Swedish folk, because now I have a nerd in the band. Tobias is he's like he's a folk musician.
Okay.
So he knows a lot about it. So he's come up with some ideas and stuff. So it's pretty interesting. So,
that sounds great. But I kind of wanted to talk about like two songs here that I've kind of like, and I think it's interesting because because you already mentioned Midsummer, and you already mentioned Blut.
Yes.
Because the Blut obviously was a big part of the Viking tradition and the Viking culture. So you have two songs here. You have the Midsummer Blut and you have the Midwinter Blut. Those are only two of the different Bluts they had during the year. So what do you think are so important about these particular Bluts? Because we definitely celebrate these periods of time still in a big fashion, not only in Scandinavia actually, but all over the world. So what's so important about these two things?
Firstly, speaking about Midwinter Blut, we're in the most darkest of times in the year, and so I think it has stuck within us, like for so many thousands of years, that we've always been around that time. It's like a bit of like anxious time, but also a time of celebration when the sun is reborn. So of course I think it's that's one of many reasons, because especially in Scandinavia, in the north, where it's pretty cold, pretty dark. So yeah, and then we have Midsommarblot. That's like the contrast, like the brightest day of the year, and big celebration of speak of fertility, and it's two big highlights of the year, celebrating the cycle and nature.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I would agree with you that, well, at least for us in the modern day, I think in many ways the Midvinterblot is still the most important. I'm not sure if that was the case back in the Viking Age, because I would imagine that the Midsommarblot must have been at least as important, because that was important for the harvest, and which would, if you had a good harvest, you would survive the next winter.
Exactly.
So yeah. So are there any other songs here that you kind of feel specifically, like extra strongly about, like musically or lyrically?
I think I don't know. Speaking about Sedan, because that was the first song I did after Lärod, some months after, and I don't know. I feel like it's for me, it's like one big song, everything.
Yeah.
But
do they go into each other, you mean?
Sometimes I would say it's like they are including bits of each other, kind of. You can hear like sometimes you can hear a phrase that's like, oh, okay, that was from the other song, right? I don't know. And Ristade Stenar was also pretty interesting to do, and that also has a bit more like Swedish folk influence to it.
Yeah.
Also,
so what's that song about? Is it about runestones, or
yes, it's about.
So what angle did you take with that one? Because
so basically, it's about. So what we can see in the if we say Nordic way or Sedan or the Indo-European way is that things, speaking about like creation myths. There are some scholars that have been speaking about this, the creation myths about Ymir, that they have found traces of, like, in burial rites, where like a person is exactly like as the primal giant is ripped apart and buried in different places to get unified by the different elements. And there's also I read about the same way with the rock carvings, where they have we speak about Tanum is an amazing place.
Yeah.
So on that big on the big mountain there, you can say in many places, but you can see that they have used fires on that hill, on that mountain, and back then the water was like touching the rock, while they chose a place where the sun was shining, and it was like a lot of an airy place. So also there you could see that they somehow like try to connect the different elements, and why we cannot discuss.
Yeah.
You know,
But aren't the rock carvings at Tanum said they're Bronze Age though, right?
yes,
Yeah. So we know even less about that stuff.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
But it's I've never been there myself. I've seen it, of course, but it looks amazing, and I think we all should pay it a visit whenever we have a chance.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's basically what it's all about. Like this everything from unifying elements and contributing to that interplay, so everything will exist. Basically, yeah.
All right. All right. So you played Midgårdsblot.
Yes.
How was that?
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. It was really amazing.
Yeah.
Also to be able to stand next to Peter was a bit
because
surrealistic.
Peter Franzén,
Yes.
Harald Finehair himself from Vikings was there to perform My Mother Told Me, or That Melted Min Moder, together with you. That must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I remember standing on stage and I was like, what is happening? What is happening?
He's a great guy, though.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
With Midgårdsblod, meeting him, and all these wonderful people in general.
Yeah. It's So, like, what was the experience standing there on stage? Because you played fairly late this year, and it's a lot of people there, and I saw. I couldn't stay myself, unfortunately, but I saw some clips from it, and it looked like everybody was enjoying themselves and having a great time there. So
yeah, it was a bit mind blowing, and felt and also because we were supposed to play quite early from the beginning, but then Gåte had to cancel, so we took their time. At first it was like, oh, can we do that? I don't know. And but it turned out amazing.
Yeah, you got to take the chance when you get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So did you get the chance to hang out and talk a little bit with Peter Franzén?
Yes, yes, I did.
Yeah. What's his thoughts about the song and the stuff that you do?
No, the thing is, we first we met in the Grimfrost hunt, and we said that like it's strange because we did that song 2022, but we've never seen each other. So it's a strange feeling. Like it feels like we know each other, but we've never met. And so no, but it was amazing guy.
Yeah, lots of fun, man.
Yeah.
So you played at Midgårdsblod, and like twice now, right? But you've never been on a full tour yet. Is that something you'd like to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
Any favorite bands you would like to tour with?
Ooh, that's a good question. Vardruna would be pretty cool, right? And
I'd see that.
But I don't know. I'm open to most of bands, really.
Yeah.
So it would just be nice to start touring and playing because we haven't played so much. It's been like it was the summer of 22 and this summer. So it would be nice to start touring.
Yeah. So how difficult is it to bring your music to the stage? Because I mean, you have a bunch of harmonies and acoustic instruments and all that stuff. Is it?
Yeah. The thing is, when we started, when I put together a live band for the first time in 2016, we played in England, and back then we had no thoughts on doing like backing tracks and all that kind of stuff. So we just went there with, I think it was like 2 guitars and nothing else. It was,
Ooh.
And that was a bit scary. And but it wasn't until I think it was this summer we started using backing tracks to be able to get the nature, nature sounds and that stuff. But also it's quite a lot of harmonies, and that's quite demanding because that means that you really need to have a system like so that you can hear everything, and that's a bit problematic sometimes.
Can definitely be problematic,
Yeah.
and especially like when you're a singer,
Yeah.
you kind of need to hear yourself. But if you're also a singer and play an instrument, that's kind of competing with each other.
Yeah,
I can imagine that would be difficult.
For sure.
So how do you solve that? Like, do you mix yourself or like?
Now we actually bring our own mixer.
Yeah.
But it's a bit different because when we rehearse, we have a certain microphones, and when we play, we have certain microphones. So it's not really.
Yeah, the microphones can make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. And but it turned out okay I think we need to do some more like research on the whole thing.
It's a growing process as well, because it's always like that. You always find new stuff that you need to put into the show, right?
Yeah.
So what's the future for Hindarfjäll right now then? What are you? What's the future? I always do that. I repeat my questions. Sorry about that.
No, create more music. And then hopefully we'll start touring and playing more. Because it feels like everyone is extremely excited to go out to play for people, and so now I need to start reading and collecting thoughts and material, and then eventually I'll start on album 4. And
I see. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So do you have any specific dreams for the future as well? Like what's your dream goal for Hindarfjäll? Where do you see yourself?
I'm gonna say the most generic thing. Play on big stages and just growing as a band together. And but the thing is, we have most of us have played together since we were 17, 16, like from high school. So it's we always have a really great time. And of course, also with the new guys, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But so we are a really good gang, and so we enjoy hanging out. So,
that's a good start.
That's a good start. Yeah.
So do you see yourself being able to tour and maybe play like bigger festivals?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. We always end our little interviews in this kind of fashion, but if you were a fly on the wall back in the Viking Age, if you could go back in time and be a fly on the wall, is there any specific thing that you would like to witness?
Blot. No, that's a good question. No, the thing is, maybe actually, a blot, or like society in general.
Yeah. Any specific blot?
No, not any.
Just any blot.
Yeah.
Why? Why would that be so interesting?
No, I would. It's because I'm really interested in those like ritualistic matters, and
they were kind of messy things, weren't they?
I don't think not most of the times. I think sacrificing animals and stuff that I don't think that was pretty common. Well, everything is relative, of course. But
animals, I think, was kind of common, was it?
Yeah, but I think because it's pretty expensive, and with animals, and they were they had animals for work. So I think most of the bloat, or even we can speak about it like on a public level or like a more private level. I think it was more about what should we say? I don't want to say plants, but you understand what I mean? Crops, beer.
But I think it depended on obviously where you were financially.
Absolutely.
I mean, livestock would be the equivalent of money, basically.
Yeah.
And a blot is a sacrifice or an offering, rather, actually.
Mm.
So you're offering something of value to you. So
exactly.
I would assume that depending on who you were in society, there would be quite a substantial amount of animals being sacrificed.
Yeah.
But because, like, looking at the archaeological evidence, I think they found in several like sacrificial grounds loads of animal bones.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's also pretty interesting, and which is a part of those speaking about midwinterblot and midsommarblot and blot in general. because back in the day, or I could just speak for myself, but when I was a kid, I always thought about the Viking Age and the sacrifices as like, they were portrayed as more like barbarians, like just killing the animals and then crazy people. But today we know that it was like they killed an animal to be able to eat themselves as well. It was like what should you say? Två flugor i en smäll.
Yeah, 2 flies in one swat.
Yeah.
Yeah, two birds with one stone, I think is the correct English translation. Yeah, they're a little bit brutal than we Swedes. We only kill flies, apparently. So the blute you would like to inspire. Is there anything else that like you say, society in general, I guess, would be interesting?
Walking around and see how people acted towards each other, and like, okay, we wouldn't understand what they would be saying anyway. but if we could speak,
if you learn Icelandic,
is that a part of the?
Yeah, you kind of have to do that. Well, I mean, you have a translator with you, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that would be interesting. But like, if you read the Icelandic saga, which in no way obviously is a correct like a reproduction of Viking life in many ways, it still does seem like it was kind of brutal and
absolutely
loads of violence involved and
sure.
very violent times.
Yeah, for sure.
But then again, you would be a fly on the wall, so you wouldn't be too much bothered with it.
Yeah. Now, of course, it's very important to. It's not about like glorifying anything. Like, this time was perfect. No, far from it.
It's just interesting.
Yeah.
But considering that, would you have liked to live back in the Viking Age?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like a whole life, like entire life, or just for some days.
Yeah, either.
Okay.
Let's start with a few days.
With a few days, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think you can manage like a week?
The thing is, I've always been a hypochondriac.
Oh, okay.
So the thing is, I think I would last maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, not a great
1 week.
Not a great thing to live in the Viking Age, where a splinter could kill you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that would mess things up, I think. I think I would need to go to therapy before.
Yeah. So a whole life would be out of the question then.
I think so. I think so. But if you like speaking about, we are here now, but if you would like be born into that, it would be a different thing.
Well, then it would be all you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so, but like a few days, like 2 weeks, you say. Like, do you think that would be feasible, like doable for you? I mean, I have to say myself, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would be able to stand that for 14 days.
No, I don't think so.
It could be. I think it was really rough.
Yeah. So okay, let's say 10 minutes would be fine. 10
I guess also it depends on who you were back then, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just playing the liar.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. Yeah, don't kill the troubadour.
Unless I don't say anything rude, right?
Exactly. Well, that's all we have time for, I guess. But let me say it was a pleasure having you here, and I think that everybody should check out the albums. Seden is the latest one. Lärets Grenar, great one, featuring myself, of course, Peter Franzén and Erik Gravsjö, by the way.
Yes.
From Nordic.
Yes.
So that's great that you got to have him on the album then.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then of course Från tiden Aspirin, so the first album of yours.
Yeah.
A pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Always great to meet you.
Same.
I wish you luck with touring, hopefully touring in the future, and also the new stuff.
Thank you so
much.
much.
And looking forward to hearing that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that bell button.